You know what? Shit.
We're good. Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Heritage Advisory Committee meeting. We're going to start with for July 10, 2025. I call this meeting to order. It is approximately 6:01 p.m. And like I said, July 10th, and we're going to start with attendance.
Mayor Zabian,
Present.
Councillor Leary Pinch,
Present.
Councillor Ivy,
Present.
Tim Carr,
I'm here.
Jane Davis,
Present.
Paul Beasley,
Here.
Guido Ferlani.
Present.
We have regrets from KJ Conyers-Steed, Michel Bourgeois,
Present.
Mark Keogh.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Westiance Regional Municipality acknowledges that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and that this land is governed by treaties of peace and friendship signed in 1726. Westiance Regional Municipality recognizes that we are all treaty people and have responsibilities to this land and each other. Westiance Regional Municipality recognizes African Nova Scotians are a distinct people whose histories, legacies, and contributions have enriched that part of Mi'kma'ki known as Nova Scotia for over 400 years. We acknowledge the historic and ongoing racism against these communities and are committed to mending our relationship by listening, learning, and recognizing our wrongs. The municipal council of this region and I, as chair of this committee, are committed to ensuring this meeting and its participants conduct themselves in a respectful and professional manner as outlined in the municipality's municipal code of conduct. Meeting presenters, staff, and the public are expected to always conduct themselves in an equally respectful manner while the meeting is being conducted. I thank you all in advance for your commitment to these important meeting principles. So we're reminded when we speak to lean nice and closely into the microphone so that everyone at home can hear everything we say if people are listening. And also we're being recorded, so we discourage anyone in the room from using a personal device for recording purposes. If there's an emergency, the exits are this door here and this door here, and we'll meet at the muster station in the staff parking lot to the east of the building, I guess it is. I have a couple quick announcements, and I know that it's already been said in this room already, I think this week, but congratulations to the community of Hantsport for an incredible Canada Day celebration. I just want to point out that it takes months of preparation to pull something like that off for a community that small. So it's nice if they can welcome thousands of people every year. Also, this past Saturday was the 4th annual Westiance Pride Parade / community walk and celebration. There was so much love that day, and yeah, it was a really special day. So if you were there or were able to take part, it was much appreciated. Our mayor was there and he spoke, as well as a number of councillors and staff from the municipality. And it wouldn't have been possible without staff help from this municipality to pull that event off. So thank you to them. Also, August 1st to 3rd is Avon River Days. And I saw today, I think many of us have seen that small group of volunteers are looking for help the weekend of that event. So if you have a couple of hours to spare, get in touch with the Avon River Days committee because they could really use a hand with a few things for sure. In August, we have no meeting, so we kind of get a month off and everybody can kind of stay home and have a, I don't know, a vacation or something like that. Does anyone else have anything you'd like to let us all know about something happening or anything else? No, nothing in Vaughan because there's always like a community event on a Saturday morning.
There is an upcoming breakfast this Saturday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. at the fire hall.
Thank you. I knew there was something going on out there.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Chair. The Windsor Bluefins are holding their first swim meet of the season this Saturday at the Hans Aquatic Center. So I think beginning ceremonies are 7:30 in the morning. They have a great team this year. I think 12 in total, 350 participants. So if you're in the mood for some swimming action, check them out. They're quite exciting to watch.
Great. Thank you. So before we approve this agenda, there are a couple of things that we need to change. So KJ sent his regrets. He's ill. And of course, he was planned to do a presentation. So we're actually going to scratch 6.1, and we're going to come back to that at a later meeting. And another change that we're going to make just for ease of evening, I think, is we're going to move the Heritage Grant application just slightly ahead of the development agreement for Bear Lake Wind Farm in our section here. So I've eliminated 6.1 and I'm just changing 6.2 to the Heritage Grant and 6.3 to the Bear Lake Wind Farm. Is that okay with everyone? Just basically the order has changed of things a little bit. If no one else has anything to add about that, I guess I'll seek a motion to approve this agenda.
I'll move that.
Thank you, Jane. Would someone like to second it?
Second that.
Thank you, Michelle. And all those in favor, a clear show of hands if possible. Okay, it looks unanimous. Thanks, everyone. So 4.0, does anyone have a declaration of conflict of interest for any of the files that we're going to talk about tonight? No? Perfect. Okay, so I will seek approval of the minutes from our last meeting on June 12, 2025, and those were sent out shortly after that meeting. Guido, thank you. Would anyone like to second the approval of the minutes? Councillor Ivy, thank you. And all those in favor, a clear show of hands. Perfect. All right, so that's the little businessy part done at the beginning. So we're going to move on to new business, and we've switched things around. So Alex, I should be using your professional, like it says Alex Dunphy, but what is your job title so I can get it right?
Senior planner.
Senior planner, that was my guess. So Senior Planner Dunphy is going to talk to us about 6.2, which is now the Heritage Grant application.
Thank you, Chair. I'll get this set up now. Okay, so tonight we're starting off meeting as the Heritage Advisory Committee, as we have a Heritage Grant application for 294 Falmouth Back Road. This application was received from Richard and Helen Murphy, the homeowners of the Heritage property, and that was received on April 25th, 2025. The application received describes proposed work to replace 4 windows on the main building, including replacing the sills for 2 of the windows, replacing trim for the windows, as well as priming, painting, and puttying. This is the first grant application for this property on record, and this grant is being requested for 50% of the estimated cost at $3,320, totaling approximately $1,660. So looking at if a heritage permit is necessary for this grant and the work being done, there is a list of non-substantial alterations which were approved by council on November 24th, 2020. That is included in the report that I submitted within the agenda. The proposed alterations here are considered non-substantial as they are a replacement of compromised architectural elements of the exterior, utilizing materials and configurations similar to the original. And confirmed by the homeowner, it is actually the exact same thing. It's the same woodworker who originally installed the windows after some rot damage, I believe 25 years ago. So we're here again with the same sort of thing. So as a result of this determination, no heritage permit is required for the work requested. So here you can see some of the pictures I took on my site visit, specifically around some of the damage of the windows. So again, this is rot damage on the windows themselves, as well as some of the window sills on the bottom. So the Municipal Heritage Property Conservation Work Grant Policy, also included in my report, lists specific work as either eligible or ineligible for funding. Based on a review of the grant policy and the site visit conducted on June 24th, staff have determined that all proposed work is eligible for funding in accordance with the grant policy. So just looking over the funding guidelines here, there is a maximum grant of $10,000 within a 5-year period for eligible conservation work. That is allocated at a 50% cost share matching basis. As well, you're only permitted 2 incentives per property per year, or 10 in any 5-year period. And lastly, the project costs are based on actual eligible expenses. In-kind contributions are not included within this calculation. So looking at our available funds for this grant, within the 2025-2026 operating budget, it includes a $20,000 amount as a heritage grant. The Director of Financial Services confirmed that in reserve is $14,368.31, and this is also available labeled as Heritage Grant. So based on the quote received, it is likely that the proposed work would cost approximately $3,320 to the property owner, and they would be eligible for a grant of half that value, so an estimated cost of about $1,660. And just lastly, to confirm that there is capacity in the budget and the reserves to provide this heritage grant to the property owner. Looking at our process, it's a very short one compared to normal. Staff reviewed the application, did a site visit, and brought forward a review and recommendation report to the Heritage Advisory Committee tonight. Following this meeting, it'll move on to council for their decision at the end of the month in July. And that brings us to the end of my presentation here, Chair. I've got a recommendation up on screen, but I'll pass it back to you if there's any questions.
Sure.
Thank
Great. Thank you. So it's not often we see a heritage file, which is always exciting for those of us who are, heritage folk. And I know a lot of you are because you're here. So there is a recommendation on the screen. But of course, if you have any questions for Senior Planner Dunphy, now's a great opportunity. Anything that you wanted to know specifically? No, I don't. Yeah, Councillor Ivey.
Yeah, just one question, which is a little bit angular. Just to the financial implications through you, Chair, to Planner Dunphy or the acting director. There's a reference there to one application is currently awarded for $10,000. Is that this year that we awarded a $10,000 grant for heritage, or is that a carryover?
I can speak to that. So there was an approved grant, I believe it was last either October or November, and they requested an extension because they couldn't complete the work over the winter months. So that's why we carried it forward in the budget.
Okay, thank you. I couldn't recall it. I thought maybe I missed something, but thank you for that.
Great. I see. Okay, go ahead, Mayor Zabian, please.
Make the motion. It's a great property. I remember when we designated it a heritage property, and it's quite lovely, and I'm glad they're doing the work. So HAC recommends that the council provide up to 50% of eligible project costs, up to a maximum of $10,000, to Helen and Richard Murphy, owners of 294 Falmouth Back Road, in order to facilitate replacement of windows on the main building located at 294 Falmouth Back Road, and that the funding be provided from account number 01-2-00-26-560-21130, only in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Heritage Property Conservation Work Grant Policy.
Thank you, Mayor Zabian. Would anyone like to second the motion? Mark, thank you. Thank you, Senior Planner Dunphy. Any other questions about this? No, Jim.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And again, maybe my memory's starting to fail me, but the long account number here, is that a designated account for heritage property grants? Is that what that account number is for?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I see no other hands. I guess we'll put this one to a vote. So all those in favor of this motion on the screen, raise your hand, please. It looks unanimous. I'm seeing the screen as well. Thanks, everyone. Motion is passed. Okay, we are going to switch roles a little bit and go ahead ourselves back to the Planning Advisory Committee, I think, at this point. And we're going to look at the next file, which is file number 25-18, Development Agreement for Bear Lake Wind Farm, revised. And acting director, is that right? Okay, Kara, you go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just getting myself set up here. Okay, so tonight, okay, there we go. Tonight I have for you a development agreement application for consideration. This is for the Bear Lake Wind Project. So a completed application was received on April 28th, 2025 from Bear Lake Wind Farm Limited. And this application is for a development agreement to permit up to 7 turbines within the West Hants Regional Municipality. This application for development agreement was previously submitted, as you all know, under previous MPS policy and then was subsequently withdrawn. And the applicants have resubmitted this new application with a revised development concept to be considered under new MPS policy. So in December 2023, this project received environmental assessment approval from the province, and amendments were additionally approved by the province this April. And another important note is that in January 2025, the West Hants Municipal Planning Strategy Policy was amended with new requirements for large wind turbine development. So this was generally based on new requirements from the province. So the proposed development falls within the resource designation, and the entire project area is within the general resource zone, which prioritizes resource uses and allows for some rural residential and commercial uses. So you can see that the majority of the surrounding area is zoned and designated the same. So in terms of community and stakeholder feedback, there was a public information meeting held on May 21st in 2025. There were 33 members of the public in attendance, and several spoke during that meeting, asking lots of questions. And staff also received several emails from individuals during the public comment period, all of which are included in my staff report. And some of the concerns that were raised were environmental impacts, well water or drinking water impacts, fire safety, and the number and density of wind farms in the area. And supporters highlighted local employment and economic benefits, reduced carbon emissions, and community benefits agreement, as well as secondary access for Chalet Hamlet. So a development permit is a legal contract between the municipality and a property owner to permit a use that is not permitted as of right in the underlying zoning and the land use bylaw. And the resource designation permits large-scale wind turbine development by development agreement only. And so for some more project details, so this is 7 turbines proposed in WHRM with 4 alternate locations. So even though there are the 4 alternate locations, the development can only have a maximum of 7 turbines as per the draft development agreement. Each turbine has an 8 megawatt capacity and is 211 meters in height from the base to the tip of the blade. And additional turbines are contemplated in Chester and Halifax Regional Municipality, just outside of this project area. So the proposed development agreement details a number of requirements, including the number of wind turbines permitted, so that's a total of 7. The setbacks, which are a property line setback equal to 1.1 times the height of a turbine, 550 meters from any turbine to any woods camp, and 4 times the height of the turbine or distance required to meet shadow flicker and noise levels to any dwellings. So at 211 meters tall, that gets us to 844 meters as a minimum separation distance there. The development agreement also speaks to fire safety measures, including passive fire suppression systems and commitments to work with local fire chief during the construction of the wind farm, primary access from Highway 14, and emergency access or egress to be provided to Chalet Hamlet. A stormwater management plan is required prior to permits being issued to ensure no increased peak flow runoff post-development, and requirements for a decommissioning fund. For substantive matters, we have the uses permitted on the property, including the maximum number of turbines, the minimum setback requirements, the requirements for the stormwater management plan, and the secondary emergency access requirement. So policy 4244 enables council to consider installation of large wind turbines or wind farm developments by development agreement. So in summary, the criteria is met since the proposed development has received environmental assessment approval, and the proposed development meets and exceeds the required separation distances. And the developers working directly with representatives of the Nova Scotia Department of Public Works to ensure that all necessary permit and road upgrades are completed to ensure safe road access is provided during the development and the operation of the wind farm. For general policy, under 1631, states general criteria for development agreements. And in summary, those criteria have been met since the proposal is not considered premature or inappropriate in the area due to the adequacy of fire protection, road networks, and financial capacity of the municipality, as no municipal costs are anticipated. And the development officer, manager of building and fire inspection services, fire chief, and area manager of Nova Scotia Department of Public Works have no concerns which have not been addressed in my report. So in terms of process, we completed the public information meeting back in May, which followed a staff review, and we are here tonight at PACAC for review and recommendation, and that will bring it forward to council later this month and pending public hearing and second reading in September as we break for August. So I have two recommendations for you tonight. I just wanted to note that the first recommendation in my staff report has an error to the attachment that is referenced. So I've just highlighted or bolded that error here. So this is the updated correct attachment and file number, just to ensure that the motion reflects the appropriate attachment. And I can take any questions.
Thank you so much. I know this has been a lot of work, like lots of detailed work, and I know it was a lot for everyone to read, but you're also very familiar, I think, with the file. So I'm going to open it up to the floor. And I will remind everyone that at this point, before there is a motion or anything like that on the floor, that this is the opportunity to ask the planning department questions. And when we move on further, if there is a motion on the floor, then it's the conversation is really just for us to have beyond that point. So yeah, I'm going to open it up, look for hands or lights or things like that if you have a question for Acting Director Fougere. I see Councillor Larry Pinch. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So through you to Acting Director Fougere, just curiosity over that fire access road. Is there any stipulation as to the fact that it should be gated, or that there should be some management since it's being considered and titled an emergency egress road? Simply because I know that those roads and the other developments are gated, and the fire department holds the key so that they're not used for any other activities for which we may not prefer them to be used.
Yes, through you, Chair. So this question came up with previous conversations around this proposed development, specifically around the question of a gate. And the applicant had spoke with the Chalet Hamlet Homeowners Association, and they sort of expressed the desire to not have a gate. There's also some other issues that came up in terms of gating Crown land and some issues around that. So the answer is no, there's no intention on having that gated. I believe the applicants have committed to some level of maintenance of this road, but it is intended to just be used for egress out of Chalet Hamlet or out of the wind farm area.
Thank you.
Mark, you go ahead.
Just further comment on that. I feel quite strongly about the emergency egress to be gated. We're not really, we shouldn't be providing another driveway for private community. Every emergency egress that I know is gated. I know some of the timber holdings They have really nice ones that you just push them open with your vehicle if there's an emergency. They're designed for that purpose. As far as blocking Crown land, they don't have to go on Crown land. They can go on leased property on the other side of Crown land before the Crown land border starts. So they're not blocking Crown land. It's what it is. It's an emergency gate. So yeah, I feel it's something that should be added. If some of their comments were they wanted to reduce the footprint, because that's where they're downscaling some of their windmills and that sort of thing in the forested land. And I mean, if you want to reduce your footprint in our forests, controlling access to roads is a big one. So, and just for an example, I just removed an extremely large illegal dumping from the area. And that is due to access of non-four-wheel drive vehicles on these roads. And when you make these roads more passable for vehicles, that's just one thing that happens in the forest. So I really feel strongly that should be gated.
Councillor Ivey, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just to get a couple of points of clarity here, if I could, through you to Acting Director Fougere. Generally pleased to see the step up in the stormwater components of the draft development agreement. And one is, I won't quote the section unless it's right at the top of this page, but it's in the, sorry. Yeah, my screen's jumping here, but it makes reference that the management plan is prior to any development permits being issued. So that's prior to even the DA being issued, is that the stormwater plan has to be provided. Is that correct, or am I misunderstanding the permit compared to the agreement?
Through you, Chair. So it doesn't have to be done before the development agreement, but before, so once a development agreement is registered, then the developer can then apply for permits, for development permits. And at that stage, there's the requirement for the stormwater management plan.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And I'm going to hopefully, I don't know why this has happened, but my screen has split here. And so just bear with me. It's underneath the stormwater management plan section where there's a reference to, I apologize. Does anybody else have any questions to space the time here? If nobody does, then I'll.
Go ahead, Jane, while Jim's looking.
Just to follow up on Jim's comment about the stormwater management plan, I did remember hearing, and hopefully I'm correct in my recall, that stormwater management plans may be required, but you don't check on them until later in time. And I'm just wondering, how do you know that a stormwater management plan is going to work if they're not checked on for a period of time, like after the development is already up and running?
So the municipality requires stormwater management plans, for different applications at different levels. And we don't, my understanding, and I don't want to speak on behalf of Public Works, but once a stormwater management plan is approved, the expectation is that they follow that out through their development. And it's not something that we go and inspect in 5 years' time, or anything to that effect.
Thank you for that answer. I have a concern about that not being followed up on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jim, did you find it? Okay.
Thank you. Patience on that, everybody. So it's section 2.8, and there's two specific paragraphs there, and I'll just highlight. It goes to my earlier comment through you, Chair, to the Acting Director about the step up here, that prior to the commencement of any earthworks in the project area, that the stormwater management plan will be issued, which I guess goes to the permits, I believe is what that's referencing, which again is a good thing that that's in place beforehand versus other areas where I think it was an after process. And then the other is paragraph B, 2.8b, where it identifies that even though they're providing a stormwater management plan, that the municipality doesn't take risk or liability, that it's the developer's responsibility for any adverse effects which may result from stormwater flow that affects other properties, which I also think is a good thing, and I'm pleased to see that in there. So thank you for that. I have no other questions or comments at this point. I'm pleased to see that stormwater component stepped up.
We'll go to Mark and then to Councillor Larry Pinch.
Yeah, I'm just following up on the stormwater management as well. Has site plan approval been given yet for the turbines?
Can you clarify your question? Site plan approval
They've been given approval for the sites they've selected for their,
through the provincial requirement
Right.
process. So they have been given their environmental assessment. So that's been approved. It's through the development agreement that we are laying the groundwork or laying the development rights for the locations of the turbines.
so we're determining the roads, where they're going to clear land, the grades, the stormwater runoff, all that stuff that's coming from the municipality.
So through the development agreement, there's a site plan at the end or at the end of the development agreement, and the requirement within the DA is that they follow that site plan. So that outlines the 7 turbine locations and then the alternate turbine locations and then the access.
So we're giving them, if everything went through, they would be approved for 11 sites.
Yes, but only permitted to build up to 7 turbines.
Okay, but I just have a question on additional turbines as well. So that's kind of where I'm going with the site approval. I did attend the public information meeting and they talked about reducing the number of turbines. And some of the comments that were made where they did it, they've heard residents' concerns. They wanted to move them to address some of those concerns, which was appreciated. And there was one really troublesome one for the residents that they didn't move because they said it was their best producer. They also said, then they were questioned if they were actually replacing them with these new turbines because it was cheaper to build one than 2. And they said, no, there was no cost difference, which was great. So my question is, with the additional site plans or the ability to move them at this point as well, they've showed that their willingness to move them. Would they be able to move that problem turbine and build 2 further back to account?
So the DA only permits up to 7. So anything over and above 7, they would have to come in for a substantive amendment to the DA, which basically sends it through the whole public process again, brings it back to PACAC. We're sort of renegotiating it. So yeah, maximum 7. So whichever one of those 11 sites they end up choosing, it's only up to 7. My understanding is that the 7 sites, those are their intention is to develop the turbines on those sites. And the 4 sort of alternate sites are just there in case they run into issues with constructability or anything like that. It provides an alternate location for them to continue to move forward with their development.
Good, thanks.
Go ahead, Councillor Larry Pinch.
Thank you. So I had one question and then I have a potential suggestion. So my question through you, Chair, to Acting Director Fougier. I know at the PIM, there was some concerns over the blasting and mineral components in well water and what would happen if residents' wells were affected by the blasting. And I think it's a pertinent topic because we've kind of had uranium come up at this table as well in recent weeks. And so I'm just wondering if we received any like additional information. I know they had said that they were gonna go back and look at that and what they could do about it to assist if there was any mitigation required. Or if we've heard anything, I guess, as an update to that, or nothing other than what we've seen.
Through you, Chair. I haven't received any additional information on that front. I believe the applicant has done a lot of work speaking to community members and kind of doing that in the background. It's not a requirement of our process to have that. So yeah, there really wasn't any sort of ongoing conversation there. A lot of that falls under, the provincial sort of jurisdiction and through the environmental approval. Specifically speaking to uranium, there's pretty strict requirements in there if it's found or if there's any sort of level of containment discovered. So that's all kind of addressed at that level.
Okay, thank you. And my next is perhaps just a suggestion for this committee to add to the development agreement, but perhaps adding like a community part to the community benefits agreement. Something that would be beneficial for the community as a whole. I do understand that they're putting funds aside and potentially those are going to be used, or the residents in the hamlet have been told those will be used as proximity payments for them. But there are other people in the community who will also be affected by this development potentially. And it would be nice to see something that would be of benefit to the community as a whole, as opposed to just a specific area.
Thank you. Councillor Ivy, I think is next.
Yeah, just thank you, Chair. My last question, I think, on this, and it goes to the question asked earlier by Mr. Keogh, and so I think it's probably the Director if he's here, but it has to do with the emergency access road. I know we've heard conversation about that, and it's referenced in the document here. It's in 16.3.1C, and then a couple of other places where it comes up, but there is no reference to whether it's gated or not. And I take it that that's what Mr. Keogh was highlighting, is that there's a reference to the emergency access and egress, but no discussions on gating. Is that something that I see where it was flagged as part of one of the PIMs, I think. I think the question might have come up there. And is that something that we would typically have where it isn't gated? Who makes the call on that?
Through you, Chair. It's definitely something that can go into a development agreement. It's through the previous application when it was brought up. There were some conversations after that, and we simply determined that didn't appear to be, I guess, the desired option of the Chalet Hamlet community specifically. So we removed it, or I guess there wasn't originally a reference to gating, but we didn't add it. Okay.
I mean, I'm raising because it sounds like it's a concern that's been touched on a few times, previous application and this one. I just don't know what, the right sense or stance of that is. Although, as I do think about it, if you've got an industrial wind farm, which is what we'd have in this area, I do wonder whether you would normally have that as normal access or only available on an emergency basis. And maybe there's no value in people that are going through it. I just don't know that specific area enough to be able to comment, but I do understand the question being asked, and I don't know what the answer is.
Mark, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I've got a few questions on setbacks. One is the Woods Camp. I seen it brought up tonight in your presentation. I own a Woods Camp in the area as well, so it gets my attention. My first question is, when Minister Lohr, I guess, did the setback and sent it to us, there was no mention of wood camps in that anymore. Now it is a dwelling, and wood camps are dwellings. So I'm wondering why wood camp is being separated out on this setback when it's not in the new definition.
Through you, Chair. This is essentially a carryover from before. So there is no requirement to have a setback to woods camps. So we don't actually have to require them to have that in their DA. So we've just put it in there to ensure that there is one. But you are correct. It's not listed in our policy criteria to have a certain setback to a woods camp. It's not technically defined as a dwelling.
It is a dwelling. I mean, it's a provincial, any regulation, hunting regulation or anything, a tent is a dwelling, unfortunately. But yeah, wood camps are dwellings. The other question I had on woods camps is, since the applicant removed their process or their previous application and resubmitted another one, there has been another woods camp added to the area up there by one of the private landowners. And I'm wondering if they have taken measurements from that one? Because that one does seem like it may be close to one of their windmills. So,
Not that I'm aware of.
okay. And then my other concern, sorry, with setbacks is I am having difficulty with the definition. I've read it before. And the part that I'm struggling with is the part where it says adequate separation distances are maintained from adjacent land uses to minimize impacts of noise, shadow, and to ensure public safety. But installation shall not require to have a separate distance more than greater than 4 from a dwelling or from the dwelling. But what about the land uses? What are the distances for the safe distance from land uses and for noise, shadow, and safety? And some of the land uses for the general resource zone would be agriculture and forestry activity.
Through you, Chair. So I interpret this policy differently, and the specific measurement is from the turbine to any dwelling. And the beginning portion of that policy is essentially just a preamble to that, but the actual measurement is to the dwelling.
So there is no focus on maintain separation distances for land uses. That's what it says, land uses. No, that's nothing. Okay, so, okay. Okay, that's all I got on setbacks for now.
Councillor Leary Pinch.
Yeah, just coming back to the emergency egress road. I would tend to agree with Mr. Keogh and Councillor Ivy. I know that currently there are even issues surrounding illegal dumping within that particular development that we are attempting to mitigate as best we can. And I think having a road that is not gated, that is secluded, would lead to an increase in that current concern. And I know Councillor Ivy didn't know as far as where that road would lead, but it would actually allow residents to come out further down on the 14, almost past the county line. So it's kind of like a work around the main road, and I think that kind of poses some concerns as well, that we wouldn't necessarily want to encourage. So I would personally feel that adding that road had to be gated to some effect, whether that's the push open gates, whether that's like Mr. Keogh had suggested, whether that's a locked gate or some form of gate, I think would be important. And I think it's also a precedent that's been set in the area because the other emergency egress roads are all gated. And a part of that as well is so that the fire department or emergency services, RCMPs, ground search and rescue are not going to like show up on something in the road that's parked or illegally dumped. Like it can actually be used as an emergency egress road because it helps keep it clear for safety purposes as well. So I do think it's important for that road to be gated.
Okay, thank you. I have a question, I guess, about like this conversation that we're having about the gated road and this process. As I look forward to the conversation to continue, things like that when we have a conversation like this about like the gate or whether or not there is one. Is that something that like the planning department take back in conversation with the developer? Is that something that is it something that our committee can even address at this point?
So previously, when this was brought up at this committee with the previous application, it was similar concerns about the gated access. I believe the recommendation was amended to include, having it be gated. So the planning department took that away. The applicant had reached out to Chalet Hamlet and had conversations with them about it. And essentially when we brought the file back to council, we recommended against adding that in because of the desire to not have one from the community in there, as well as the fact that we have no requirements through policy to require a gate to be there.
Okay. Mark, do you want to go ahead?
I do. And I apologize for all my questions. I just want to say I live in the community. I've been involved with this for a very long time. I have many residents ask me questions about it all the time because I provide a venue for Everwind to speak publicly and stuff at our hall and stuff. So I do get a lot of questions. So I'm just trying to get a few of them out here tonight. I will save some of them for public hearing. But reviewing some of the policy involved with this, policy 16.3.1, things that council shall consider for a development agreement. And one of them, E, is the pattern of development which the proposal might create. And we're starting to see it. We're seeing a pattern develop. We had South Canoe on our border, wasn't West Hants. Benjamin Mills was created. Then there's Eller's House, and now here comes Bear Wind. There's definitely a pattern that's starting to be created in our area. And the Vaughan area, Mill section, Upper Vaughns, out to Leominster, it is a very fast-growing residential area. If we're going to turn into or the area is going to turn into a wind farm, it is going to halt that production. And right now, it's private development that is doing that. If you look out there now, I don't know how many, 8. I think there's 8 private communities out there now that are done on private investment and creation, and the homes out there have skyrocketed in the last decade or two. They're not going to build into wind farms and underneath windmills. So I do think the pattern is not a good one for our area. We have welcomed wind production and wind farms. We're not opposed to it. I just think we have to get it right when we say yes to these development agreements. And if it means moving some stuff around, pushing them back, this one, for instance, is on a massive amount of acreage for 7 windmills that could fit on a very small area if we wanted to. So I'm not sure why we have to do it over such a large area when other wind farms don't. So I do think we need to consider the pattern of development that we're creating by more approvals of these wind farms.
I just want to add too that it's a big conversation, and I know a lot of people have been having it for a while, but I just do want to remind this committee that, when we talk about these things, it's hard to not generalize about the area itself, but it is important to remember that we're talking about a specific file. So, we can't really compare it to other things, I guess. I want to say professionally, because our job is to really sort of assess this file and whether or not it meets the criteria that are sort of laid out, and whether or not, for example, there's anything substantive that people around this table sort of identify that may pose a problem or something like that, or require sort of amendments and things like that. But that's really our role, and I've thought about this a lot before coming here tonight, and I just wanted to just sort of reiterate to everyone, because I did a lot of reading, not of just of our file, but also of the municipal policy and meeting procedure and everything to prepare for this meeting tonight, and I did learn a few things, and one of those things is that for those members of the public who represent this committee, like you and I, and a number of us around the table, we are representing our communities. But Michelle pointed out in our last meeting, and it is pointed out in the municipal policy as well, that it really is incumbent upon us when we sit down for these meetings to really look at things objectively, because our position, our job here is to assess this file, and like I said, to identify anything that may be substantive or a problem or anything like that, or recognize that it follows procedure. So that's the task that we have here tonight. Basically, it's difficult because I know that each of us approach everything that we do in life with opinions and all of these things, but it is important as a committee that when we come through that door, the agenda that we have is the agenda that we're given, and not the agenda I come in with in my head or whatever, or any of us. there are requirements upon this committee, and I just wanted to mention that because I suspected that this conversation, is more of a challenge, I think, than some of the other conversations, like the heritage file that we just dealt with. So, I want everyone to just remember what it is that we're here to do, and also to remind you that we are one step in a process. And at each stage of this process, there's public input, council weigh-in, committee of the whole, all of these things. There are opportunities, I think, for things to sort of continue to develop. So we're not the be all end all of anything. We are just a recommendation, we are a recommendation committee tasked with really assessing this file. So that's kind of my perspective, I think, up here as chair. Just a reminder. Paul, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to go back to the dwelling unit camp comments that were made, and the Municipal Government Act defines dwelling units, which is what we would be dealing with in the context of a development agreement. And it defines it in the definitions of the Municipal Government Act that a dwelling unit means living quarters that contain kitchen facilities within the unit, have toilet facilities that are not shared and are occupied or are reasonably fit for occupancy. So when we talk camps and living and dwelling units, typically hunting camps don't meet that definition. Some may, but if it does, it's not a hunting camp. It's probably a insulated cottage and with with services. So I just throw that in there just so that there is a definition.
Thank you, Paul. Additional questions, comments, like, Mayor Zabian, go ahead.
Yeah, Chair, through you to Acting Director Fougere. Just on the community benefits agreement, was that put together by the Everwin Group, or was there a back and forth between staff and them? Just want to wrap my mind around that part.
Absolutely. So it was drafted previously through the other applications, and has since been amended based on feedback. So as you know, a community liaison committee has been established this spring, and they have done a lot of work to amend, negotiate, and change the community benefits agreement. So it's a bit of a joint effort. We have it reviewed by our municipal solicitor, kind of for their insight over it. And from a planning perspective, it's really something that's kind of outside of the planning mandate. There's not really policy that we can follow around it. So it's kind of included in this package and for consideration for council, kind of at the end of this process, but kind of included in here as for information.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Zabian. Looking for other lights. Michelle, go ahead.
Through you to Acting Director Fougere, just for my own clarification about the stormwater management plan. So the applicant submits a plan, the municipal engineer would approve that plan, and then post-construction, sort of pre-commissioning, if you will, that municipal inspector or municipal engineer would confirm that the plan has been constructed, if you will, as required. And then from then on, it's up to the applicant to adhere to that plan going forward. Is my understanding basically correct?
That is correct. So in the development agreement, it speaks to following construction. The municipal engineer will sort of confirm those things, but then sort of beyond that, it's on the developer to ensure that they are, continuing to adhere to those flows.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, just more questions on the community vibrancy fund or the setback or payments and whatnot. Is that clearly defined in the development agreement and then binding to the applicant to follow through with that? And the reason I ask that is we had a CLC member from South Canoe that they went through the same procedure. She met, they discussed, when it was all said and done, and no payments went out to the community. So is that binding?
I would have to look up the actual specific section of the DA to get exact wording, but it is a requirement in the DA to have one. In terms of the sort of, I guess, administration of the community benefits agreement, my understanding with the amendments that the CLC has kind of taken on a lot of that and has sort of, pulled back. It is an agreement between the three municipalities and then administered by the CLC. So, yeah, it may be a bit of a legal question that I'm not entirely sure I can answer.
Sure. This one is a question on the lease. At the start of your presentation, you explained the development agreement is a legal contract between the municipality and the landowner. Has the landowner signed this application?
So there's two landowners in this situation. We have Crown land and then we have privately owned land. And they basically, at the beginning of an application, give permission for the developer to apply for a development agreement. And then through the development agreement, it speaks to the leasing requirements and that a lease is required to be signed by a certain date in order to be able to develop the project. And any sort of lease negotiation that is completely outside of this process.
Okay, so we're not going to have a look at the lease before the development is approved.
Just that there is a lease secured or not.
They'll sign it. There will be a secured lease, so it'll be a signed lease before the municipality grants a development permit, or no?
Yes, that's correct. That's what's listed in the development agreement.
Additional questions? Jim.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just my final comment on this emergency access and the way that it's worded in the agreement about the developer providing emergency access or two additional points of access for emergencies such as wildfire. And I think I've quoted it pretty close, but I may not be exact, but that's the extent of it. And so by specifying it as emergency access, I don't see that as normal access. And I don't know what kind of commitments have been made on this or haven't been made on this or what the wherefore on it is, but it occurs to me that not having gated in there is really no different than having it in there. It's that at the developer's choice, they probably have the ability to put a gate across that road. I don't know if we need to get clarity on that or not, but it just occurs to me if we're referring to it as emergency access, it's not standard access that anybody would have the ability to go in and out of on a regular basis. So that's just my thinking on it. I don't, again, just throwing it out there as to whether that's something to be further sorted out as we go down this path. But I think it's probably the people in the Chalet Hamlet area may have an expectation that there is or there isn't. And so because it's become an issue in the discussion at the PIMS and the discussion point here, I think at some point we probably want to get clarity on that so that there's no false expectations and there's trouble down the road. But I interpret emergency access to be something that's going to be controlled. It goes to the wording that's used in here because different words, different meanings. And that will be my final comment on this, which I've committed previously, but I promise you that's probably it.
Just to add to that, I know, the example was mentioned that the wills of the community, in the other case or the other instance. And I think that, I know communication's happening between, the company and the community and like you said, I heard it get mentioned as well at the PIM when I was watching it. So I feel like that the conversation around the gate, non-gate, maybe is a slightly wider conversation to have with the community that's mostly directly affected and the people there. And I hope and I do believe that conversation will continue with those people because my understanding is that conversations are happening and all of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, we don't really have any answer for you, I guess, but yeah.
I know I wasn't specifically looking for an answer, but encouraging that somehow be clear, at least amongst those folks that are most directly impacted, really good wording regarding that, so that there isn't an interpretation one way or the other that ends up being something that people don't understand in advance. I think better to know now and have a debate or a discussion 2 years from now as to when something changes. So thank you. That's all.
I'm going to go to Councillor Leary Pinch.
Yeah, so just in follow up on that, and perhaps it's a discussion we're probably going to have at council too. I just wouldn't want it to go through as an emergency access road that's not gated with that language. And then there is additional staff time in the future for mitigating the concerns that are going to happen from having that road. So I'm just trying to look forward to the future based upon the issues that we're having right now already, and trying to mitigate those. So probably a future discussion council.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Mark and then I'll go to Paul on the screen.
As far as the gate goes, is there any like appetite to amend the motion to include it in our recommendation to the council would be my first question. But in that the previous application, we made recommendations or amendments to the recommendation, and the applicant wished their original recommendation go through without our recommendations, and it was presented that way. So is that the same case with this? Is it this recommendation or nothing, or are we able to make recommendations, amendments?
We have three choices tonight. We can do three things. We can approve the motion that's on the screen, and there are actually two. There's a second one as well. We can always amend a motion if we feel that our amendment is substantive and a reasonable enough thing to do. Or there's a third thing, and I forget what it is right now. But really, it's the first two things that we're talking about. But I will say, and I just have a little bit of typed up advice, that if this committee, if there appears to be a will, and I'm going to use the word appears to be because it's really great if we can have the conversation before we have to, start making amendments and things like that, if it comes to that. So if there is an interest in amending a recommended motion in any of our meetings, it's preferred that we kind of as a group make that decision sooner than later. So we don't want to make amendments to amendments. We don't want to have to back ourselves out of some sort of, Robert's rules mess that we're into. So what I'm suggesting is that, we have this conversation now, and if we feel as a group that we need to make an amendment, we do it before and not sort of after we've read the motion and seconded and all that stuff. I think that as a group, we can have this conversation, decide what it is that we want to move forward with, whether or not we're going to make any changes at all, or if we're going to, make this recommendation and push it forward to the next step. It's up to the group. So really those are our two, I said three, but two choices. I think the third is something crazy or whatever, but yeah. I don't know if that helps at all, but yeah, Mark, we're always, as a recommendation committee, we can always make, recommend amendments and things like that. Guido, go ahead.
Oh, wasn't Paul?
Oh, sorry, Paul, you go ahead. I'm sorry. That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe the motion should be tabled not tabled, but put forward for these continued discussions, and any amendments comes out of that. So I'm going to make the motion now that PAC-HAC recommends that council give first reading and hold a public hearing to consider entering into a development agreement to allow a wind farm on PIDs 45399-540, 45399-573, 45381-217, 45381-209, 45399-532, 4506-0068, and 4506-0076, which is substantively the same as the draft set out in attachment C of the report file 25-18 to the Planning and Heritage Advisory Committee dated July 10th, 2025.
Thank you, Paul. And I will make a note before, if anyone's wanting to second it, that it will be at that point that we can't ask questions of the planning department anymore. Our conversation will just be around this table. So we'll relieve acting director of her duties for the evening if the motion is seconded. So yeah. Seconded. Okay. So Oh, sorry. Yeah, Mark, did you want to?
Well, I did have more questions for Acting Director Vigier, but if I can save them.
No, to be honest, I did actually catch I did catch your light come on.
Yeah.
And I
And
should,
Guido's light was on as well. So
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, go ahead with your question, please.
My other question is on fire suppression. It was a big topic at the PIM. There was a lot of residents that had concerns about it. Other windmills in the area use fire suppression. We actually included it as an amendment on our original one. I heard the applicant's reasoning why they don't want to use fire suppression. But the question I have is, of everyone we asked, our professionals on our list that we asked about the fire suppression and the need for it, did any of them or do any of them have high structure fire suppression or firefighting experience in rural woodland areas?
I think I can answer, but I'm not sure that we're in a position to answer that. Like, I don't think that we have enough information to answer that. And I can't speak for the planning department, but yeah, maybe you want to.
Through your chair. Yeah, I'm not comfortable speaking to qualifications of our fire chiefs.
I will note that in the report, the fire chief did say, with or without a fire suppression system, that the response would be the same. That the way that they respond to sort of the situation wouldn't change. And I know that the fire suppression systems are recommendations, like in jurisdictions, and often not requirements. But Mark, you go ahead. Sorry.
No, I believe the comments where they would let it burn and collapse to the ground because they have no way to fight it until it's on the ground. So, but I don't know, maybe somebody could get more clarification from a firefighter. But
That would be accurate, Mark. My apologies for stepping in, but that is the current plan with Benjamin Mills and the portion of South Canoe that sits on our side. We are trained in high angle rescue if we needed to assist one of their individuals up in the tower with a medical emergency. But as far as fire suppression goes, it will be when the fire reaches the ground level, for which we will then be able to mitigate the concerns. But we do not have the equipment to reach anything at that height.
Thank you, Counselor. Guido, do you want to go ahead? Your light's been on for a long time.
Yeah, it's a consideration, it's not a question. Everything that could be asked has been asked by my excellent colleagues. And the consideration is, it took a kid to scream that the king was naked. And he did it because he was a kid. Sometimes I hold that mind frame in my life. And so the reason why I'm speaking is because I need to share why I won't vote in favor of moving this thing tonight. And the reason is the premise on which this entire construct is built is fallible. And today in the atmosphere, we have 0.4% of carbon dioxide and 0.3% plant and vegetable life begins to die. So the premise of net zero is a fallacy. And that's a reason why I don't even entertain the consideration regarding a windmill or any other form, because Earth is a perfect system where the trees actually need carbon to produce oxygen for us. It's a symbiotic system. So I am not in favor of this kind of operations that have been put in motion since 1958 in Rome through the Club of Rome, and then all the following act that I've created an agenda that today is called Agenda 2030. I'm speaking not in this moment, as you ask, Chair, thank you. I appreciate your remark on the agenda, but because I cannot address the agenda, there is nothing in this plan that is my colleague afforded every detail procedurally. I wanted just to share the premise on which I believe this entire agendas set over the decades that were born even before I was born are bringing us today only to be procedural cogs. Unfortunately, my conscience did not allow me to just be a procedural cog and speak to only what I am put in front of my eyes. I need to speak about a plan that has been in motion from time immemorable. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Looking for additional question.
It's just a comment.
Okay.
And this will be a final one for me tonight. I just wanted to express as well that I won't be able to support the recommendation as it is. Industrializing our forests in West Hants it's a serious step. I'm not against this project. They've shown the ability to change to make things a little bit better for West Hants and the residents. I do think there's just a little bit more that can change to make it better. These development agreements are for council to consider. It's not. It's starting to get confused that if they check all these boxes, they can just do it. And I don't feel comfortable with the way this one is being forced into our woodlands, and there's really no benefit to the residents or Nova Scotians as a whole. It really with the green hydrogen, everything. So I won't be able to support it as it is tonight, but I do look forward to more discussion at the public hearing.
Mayor Zabian.
Yeah, through you, Chair. I was just going to add the suggestions that because the motion is on the floor, if there are extra considerations, I think the cleaner way would be to go through the motions that are suggested in the package and then make a separate motion to have council consider adding a gate to the emergency access, have council considering looking at the fire suppression, have council considering through the first reading stage, and that may be more beneficial to keep it all nice and clean and tidy, and just as a suggestion.
Yeah. I agree. I want to keep it clean and tidy so I can not be so confused. But no, actually, I agree with you. And we should note also that there are minutes and all of these things. So everything that we say is recorded and public knowledge as well. But yeah, I am looking. I don't see any more lights on. I know there was a motion read, and I'll give you an opportunity, Mayor Zabian, if you'd like to second the motion. I know you did earlier, and then I cut you off.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion that's been made and seconded. So we can continue our discussion, but I will say that what I'm going to do is pull out the procedural rules, and I'm going to limit each of you, if you have additional comments, to just 2. I'm sorry about this, for 5 minutes maximum of each. And that doesn't include conversation back and forth. Like if we had questions for each other, we can always ask that. But if we want to make like sort of expansive comments, then I do have to limit them for time. But yeah, so we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Anybody want to sort of continue the conversation about this motion? If not, we'll put it to a vote. So we're going to do it a clear show of hands. I think we see everybody on the screen and everybody here. So all those in favor of the motion, a clear show of hands. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 hands up. Opposition, clear show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I believe that this motion, based on that mathematics, has. Oh, Kayla, did you raise your? Sorry, I missed that. Kayla, you're in the dark there. You raised your hand in opposition, correct?
No, for it to go to public hearing, I raised my hand for it to go to public hearing.
Okay, we're going to do it all again. So all those in favor of the motion, a clear show of hands, and I'm going to try and count clearly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Opposition, clear show of hands, please. 1, 2, 3. I apologize, everyone, for not catching that the first time. So that motion has passed. I believe there's a second motion. If someone would like to read that. Oh,
I apologize, Chair, for interjecting. Just 5 and 3. So is there only 8 of us?
There are. We're missing KJ tonight. And
8, 9, I count. Am I miscounting? There's 9, so we're missing a vote still.
oh,
So I'm only asking,
six,
sorry.
7,
10 of them.
8, 9. There are 9 of us here, I think. 2 on the screen. What am I missing? Did I not count properly?
Yeah.
No, you're right.
2 on the screen, 1.
Yeah. So did we get it right? 5-3?
So 5. It was 5.
5-4. I'm sorry. 5 or no.
Let's.
But I can't believe we're all looking around at each other so befuddled. We're gonna do this a third time. Are there?
Let's make sure we get that number first.
So
Did you get that?
favor was 1, 2, 3, 9. 4, 5 were in favor and 4 were against. So
5-4 is the vote. Okay.
we had 9 people. 9 people, 5 and 4.
5 and 4. Yeah. I'm sorry, everybody. Gosh, I messed that up twice.
My apologies for.
No, thank you. You're right. Yeah.
We're good.
Okay. So there's a second motion on the screen. Would anyone care to read that?
Do it, Chair. PACHE recommends that council require that development agreement with Bear Lake Wind Limited, Wagner Forest Nova Scotia Limited, and Atlantic Star Forestry Limited for PIDs 453-99540, 453-99573, 4538-1217, 4538-1209, 453-99532, 4506-0068, 4506-0076 be signed within 120 days from the date of final approval by council or the date that any appeals have been disposed of. Otherwise, this approval will be void and obligations here arising here under shall be at an end.
Thank you,
I
Mayor.
will second that.
Thank you, Paul. Any question about the timing, which is the second recommendation? No? Okay. So I think that it was a 6-3 vote last time, but we have video and all that stuff, so we're gonna check later. But so this motion has been seconded as well. So clear show of hands for this one, and I'll count clearly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Kayla's hand is up 6, 7. Okay, so opposition, a clear show of hands. There should be 2 if our math is correct. Yeah, 7-2. Okay, we got it that time. That was really difficult. So there was mention before we read these 2 motions of potentially this committee taking the opportunity to add some notes or a motion just from within this group for consideration for council as we move forward. So I've written a number of notes down, and I'm just going to read these, and you can all tell me if I've hit all the key points, and then we can quickly put this into a motion to include these things for council's consideration. So the things that I've written down, I feel like we've established the dwelling definition based on the provincial definition, but I have mentioned the gated gated roadway. I've also added the potential for the community fund to include a conversation around a community park. I think Councillor Larry Pinch mentioned that. There were questions about land usage setback as well, which I think really we addressed, but I'm not sure that was something that you all wanted to pursue. I wasn't sure how to sort of put that to question. I think that and the Woods Camp we talked about as well, but yeah, really it was about the gate and the vibrancy fund were the 2 that I highlighted that were of chief concern that I think we didn't really talk about much. Was there something I'm missing? You can all tell me if I'm missing. So fire suppression. Yes, thank you. So fire suppression, gate, and vibrancy fund, well, water. Can you elaborate? Like the blasting. So yeah. Are you suggesting, like, is there a suggestion like testing or what would your recommendation to council be in regard to residents' concerns about well water? Like, what can we say for consideration?
I think they would need some type of reassurance that there won't be an issue, and they'll be wanting some type of compensation if there is an issue, or what's going to be done.
Okay, reassurance and all right. So I have a couple of other things. I'm going to read them one more time, and somebody else is going to have to make the motion. So let's see if we can get some pencils writing here. So we have mentioned fire suppression, which is a recommendation that we can make. Mention of the gate and that there's a desire for a gate. I guess we should say for the vibrancy fund to potentially include aspects to consider a community park, and also reassurance and consider compensation, considerations for compensation if well water is affected. Does that sound approximately right? I saw Jim writing stuff down. I'm really hoping he's got this for us. So yeah, this is good. I like what we're doing because I know these things were on everyone's minds, and I'm glad that Mayor Zabian pointed out a way for us to sort of push forward with this and include our recommendations in addition to the report and all the criteria that are met. Okay, so we're just going to take a moment while I think Councillor Ivy's going to bail us out. Are you going to bail us out with a motion?
Hey.
Okay.
If you have one on hand, Councillor Ivy, you go ahead.
Oh, just 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Councillor Ivy.
And I'm going to kind of repeat what Tim said to see that we're in the ballpark on this, because I was just noting notes, but I think as it relates to the Bear Lake development agreement file, the council also give consideration to the gated emergency access, questions on fire suppression, the vibrancy fund, including a community park, and assurances related to well water that potentially could be impacted due to blasting.
Second.
Thank you both. Affected by blasting. I think we're all writing back and forth. Did everyone get a sense of the motion that was just made and seconded? Yeah. Basically, well, we've heard it all, but yeah, those key points again. Gated access, fire suppression, vibrancy fund to potentially include a community park, and well water potentially affected by blasting, and considerations of compensation. So the motion will look something like that. It will definitely include those key points. Are you all feeling good about that? Yeah. Additional questions about the motion that we've just made? No?
And I think the wording at the front end was that council give consideration. I just want to be okay. Is the wording that I use. So it's just that council take these factors into account.
Council give consideration. Perfect. All right. We're going to put this motion to a vote if there are no more questions. So a clear show of hands to support this motion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, it's unanimous. Thanks, everybody. That's perfect. Okay, we are going to move on to business arising from the public information meetings, of which there is none. So beyond that, we have our file updates. I think there are 7 of them. So if anyone has a question for the planning department about these file updates, we're not going to go through them one by one, but they're all listed there on your agenda. So I'll just pause for a moment while you just read down through that list, 8.1 to 8.7. Mark, did you have a question about one?
Yeah, I'm just curious about the King Street one. I was really taken with the lady that spoke on the mature trees. And I'm just wondering, has there been any discussion with the municipality and the applicant at working those into the development?
Through you, Chair. So any feedback that was relayed to us at the public information meeting or during the public comment period, we gather that all together, and we do relay that back to the applicant and have conversations as we go through the negotiation process of the DA before we bring it forward for consideration.
Yeah, so they're made aware of it, and yeah, the concerns for sure. Does anyone else? Councillor Ivy.
Yeah, just one question if I could, and I apologize. I didn't get to look it up before we arrived here, but it's related to file 87, which was the Windsor Back Road. A decision by the, I'm going to have to say the NSUARB because I haven't got the new name down yet. And it relates to, they make specific reference there to council approved the application with amendments to section 2.9B triple I. I don't know if it's fair for me to be springing that here, but through you, Chair, to Acting Director Fougier, are you able to comment on 2.9B triple I as to what that was referencing? Do you know that?
I can speak to that, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Through you, Chair, to the question around section 2.9B sub-criterion triple I. So that was just the section referring to the cost sharing within the stormwater management section of that development agreement, and the wording specifically that they wanted changed was to add the word may to that section. So it would read as the municipality may require or may provide cost sharing at a rate of da 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 da. The rest of the section. So it was just to provide the option for the municipality. So the wording wasn't concrete that the municipality would provide the cost sharing. It was to include the word may.
Thank you. And then the one last question I have, because it's not often we go through rejections, appeals, and so on, although it did seem like it was more frequent at the end of last year. So on this, is this coming back to council to approve? It says in here that council be directed to, but it's purely to staff to then take the agreement, execute it, and move forward. Is that correct?
Through you, Chair. Yes, that's correct. So it's technically approved through the Nova Scotia Regulatory and Appeals Board. So that's their new name, NASRAB. So they technically approve it following the appeal.
Okay. Thank you very much for that.
Okay. Any other questions about the updates? No? What was that acronym? NASRAD? I have to hear it again. Sorry.
NSRAB.
Okay.
Or NASRAB, I guess.
Good one. Okay, we're going to move on to the Building and Development Activity Report, which is on page 270 of your package. Are there any questions about this? This one looks pretty straightforward, pretty basic this month. No? Okay, we had one notice from an adjacent municipal unit, but it was emailed to everyone. It was in Kings County, something about a business expansion, I think, Kennard or somewhere, Port William, something like that. So if you're interested, check your email. So now we have one member of the public. I don't know if the member of the public is interested in making, this is the opportunity where you can step to the microphone if you want, and you know, we give you about 5 minutes to make a comment or anything like that. You don't have to, there's no pressure. I'm seeing a head shake no. So yeah, we don't meet in August. Our next meeting date is September the 11th, 2025. And yeah, Avon River Days is coming up, everyone. So be sure and volunteer for helping out or just go to everything and support those people. Thanks, everyone. This meeting, I know, was, you know, I had conversation with staff leading up to the meeting. I wanted to be prepared as much as possible. And I know that you are all exceptionally prepared for every meeting. So there is added pressure, I think, in that way. But it's a great meeting. And we're a recommendation committee, and I feel like that's what we did. So great job. I'll seek a motion to adjourn. Guido? Perfect. Thank you. We're done, folks. Take care.